Today, I'm going to make the presentation a little differently than I normally do. I have been going through some of my old online files because I'm going to teach a, a, a class that I created in 2017. Can you believe it? 7 years ago. And I'm going to teach it again because it is absolutely, it's classic, it's current, it's probably for a long, long time, one of the things that I think are very, very important. So as I'm preparing for this class that I'm going to teach here live in Santa Cruz in September, I'm reading through some of the things and listening to some of the things I taught, and I'm like, what? I taught that 7 years ago? And I kind of forgot it. I mean, I didn't forget it, but I forgot the details and the clarity that came through then as it does now. And it is the same. I have said this, I think, before when I find some of my old programs or teachings, that it's just still the same, very current. And it just shows me how when you really connect with the divine flow that came here to express something, it's always fresh. It's not something I memorize or remember or think about before I do it. It's just boom, it's there. And that's probably why I forget it afterwards, what I said, what I did, because it's not something I'm doing with my mind. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised to listen to some of the things that are offered. And today I want to play the introduction that I did online in 2017 about the program called The Global Impact of Self-Love. So I'm going to play it to you. It's long. If you are busy or don't have time now, please save it for later. But it basically brings it all together. And this is just the introduction to it. And then there's going to be a 6-week program that I'm planning to do again online. But I want to just start doing it in person also in my own community. So if you live in Santa Cruz area, you might consider joining, and you can reach me and get more information about it. So for now, I'm going to just play that introduction that I did. So please sit back and enjoy, and take notes if you want. Reach out with questions. I would love to hear from you. The global impact of self-love. First, a big warm welcome to the global impact of self-love. I'm so grateful, really, that you've taken the time to join us here today, as we're all trying to find a way through or out of this mess that the world is in today. I'm sure many of you feel lost as to what to do, and then others may have ideas and inspirations, but may not be sure where and how to start. And maybe some of you are reaching out to get clarity how you can participate in this new way, the new paradigm coming in. I would like to share a little bit about what prompted me to invite you to this call and share about my upcoming 6-week class. It's going to be an online class, and hopefully, really hopefully, inspire you to feel a bigger yes inside, to take a stand for love and take a stand for yourself. Take a stand from what matters to you and what you envision the world can be. And then at the end, I'll make space for questions. This call will be recorded. That means you can listen to it later or once more if you really like it. And of course, I hope you do. So let's look at the world. What is happening in the world is mobilizing so many of us to step up and take action in a way that we have never done before. It gets us out of our snoozing, comfort seeking, familiar identity. And it forces us to take responsibility for who we are, as well as how we have been part of creating this mess. Yeah, truly, whether consciously or unconsciously. Remember, there's no blame in any of this. This is just a time to wake up. Most of us, if not all, we have dozed into a deep sleep, not realizing what's been going on in the world. Sleeping through it inside, not being awake to it, it does not make us immune to it. Have you noticed? We're all affected by it. We have to remember that we are one. And what is happening in the world is happening to all of us until we wake up. And then we're still part of it. But now we have choice and we can do something about it. It's become conscious. So we want to get in touch with this choice so we're not just passive bystanders hiding the solution right inside of us. That's you and me. So with all the craze out there, the good part is that we are now forced to wake up and forced to wake out of the dream, out of the nightmare that we're finding ourselves in. And I just want to intersect that, of course, this is not to deny that your life has many beautiful moments and experiences too. Thank God. I know it's not all bad, but it's not all good either. And we do have what it takes to bring more good into the world, more God. And because we are one, we are the world and we have a responsibility. And if you're on this call, I assume there is something inside of you that resonates and wants to do something, even though you may not know what. It doesn't have to be anything big, but it can be. You may want to raise the consciousness on earth in your own unique way. And again, but you don't know how to do that. We can't really turn the other way anymore. We can't pass by on the other way side of the street. We have to find our inner authority and inner resources so that we can take a stand and simply say, enough. Enough to our inner sleepiness and snooziness, as well as enough to how that is reflected in the world. I'm just wondering, are you at a place where you've had enough? When you really get that what you are seeing, quote unquote, out there is yourself, it's what's in your mind, then you know it's time to clear the windshield so we can get a better view, a better vista out there. And, I know that we're all different. We all have different values, preferences, gifts, strengths, spiritual insights, and all of them are needed. No one is better or worse than the others. It's when we ignore them for the sake of comfort and familiarity and safety, for not being judged, that's when we miss the opportunity to live and express the life that lives inside of us. So we need to connect back to these inner gems, these inner gifts, and make ourselves available for them in this dimension. It's like bringing it forth from the inner to the outer. We need to become outlets for them. Well, actually, we need to become outlets for who we are. We already are. We're not really separate from our divine expression. And it reminds me of a poem, a very old poem by Robert Browning. This was back in the 1800s. He says, "We need to open out a way for the imprisoned splendor to escape." And that is what this call is about. Of course, the question is, how do you do that? So here's where it comes to the self-love. You need to stand for love in yourself first. For me, it all started with a movement called Women Standing for Love, and that's already a number of years ago. It happened after one of those visions, or we can also call them downloads, that I often get. I actually often get them during a run in the mornings out in the redwoods, or in a meditation, or sometimes in a shower. I'm sure you know the feeling. It's kind of common that we're more open there to receive. Well, this one felt really big, and it made me act on it. And now, several years later, looking back, it's been a journey of learning, expanding, and trusting. That was my own process. And it actually seems to be a never-ending unfolding of this vision, which is now unfolding today as what I talk about today is the global impact of self-love. Let me just share a little bit with you about the vision and the foundation, what Women Standing for Love is built on. When it came through, I saw what is possible when we say yes to our visions, and when we will not budge anymore. And when we start getting together and sharing our visions, support each other in the vision, empower each other. This is what's needed. And we get in groups, with similar visions, with people with similar visions, so we can take action in the world, no matter how big or how small. Bringing all our pieces, and I kind of want to spell it with P-E-A-C-E-S, because it is all about bringing peace. So bringing all of our pieces to create a masterpiece, that's kind of the goal. Masterpiece, and peace again is spelled P-E-A-C-E. So when I went along with this vision and this download, I saw that it's built on 3 pillars. And I'll just read them to you here. The first pillar is stand for love in yourself and your own life first. And that's, of course, what this course is going to be about, the global impact of self-love. So that's number 1. Number 2 is actively create a circle of your vision or your goal, and then actively join an existing circle of your vision. You can also create your own, or you can join one, or you can start looking for people who resonate with you. And then when you have that connection with others, then you work together as one. That's the 3rd pillar. You start working as one, you start collaborating, you start supporting each other and inspiring each other. And then you, of course, you have to keep that one cause or your vision at the center as the motivating focal point, so that it's easy to get lost in, other things, but we need to be very clear the goal, and we need to keep our intention on that. So the first pillar of how to stand for love in yourself and your own life first is what my upcoming 6-week class will cover. After starting Women Standing for Love, I realized that this first pillar is essential for the next to unfold. And I saw a need to learn how to do that. I will show you step by step, week by week, how to do that. And it's called the ALL formula, ALL. And if you have already read my little free book that you can download from my website, it's called 5 Steps to Dive into the Divine Feminine Flow, then you already know about the ALL formula, the ALL. And in this program, the 6-week program, you will learn how to apply the first 3 steps of the ALL formula. The A stands for allow, and the first L for listen, and the second L for love. So that all goes into pillar number 1. So if you signed up on my homepage, you would have received it already. If not, please let me know or email me, or just go to my website and you can download it. I also have another little ebook that I created, which is called Women Standing for Love. And that's a great one to have as a resource during the upcoming program. And for those of you who join me in the 6-week program, you'll receive a free copy of it. Anyway, I realized that if anything will ever change, this pillar number 1 is the most important one. It took me a while to figure that out when I started out. I realized that most of the people who came to these meetings need some guidance how to build that pillar and make it strong. And without this pillar, nothing else can be built on it. It will collapse. As long as we are not loving towards ourselves, our needs, our wants, our longings, our values, and our vision, and what we've neglected inside, that's a big one too, we have a vacuum inside. This vacuum is what thrusts us out into the world to fill it up. This vacuum wants to be filled, trust me. And if you don't fill it yourself from the inside, you'll go out into the world hoping somebody else will do it for you. Kind of go out there empty. And it's hard to make a difference in the world if you're empty and looking to fill it up from the outside. But that's the world we live in. Wanting something, wanting to be loved because we don't love ourselves, wanting a need met because we don't meet it inside, wanting to be acknowledged because we don't acknowledge ourselves, greed to fill up the emptiness, power struggle to compensate for the insecurity inside, and on it goes. Now, you may have heard this before, but God abhors a vacuum. So even though you may have a great vision in your heart to make a difference in the world, this vacuum gets in the way. And if you are not feeling fulfilled inside, a lot of your energy may still going towards wanting to be liked, loved, approved, and the fear of not getting it. So it's kind of a contraction inside where we want a vacuum filled by others. And many times we'll do anything. You can just see if this relates to you. You know, many of us have overcome that by now, but it's a phase that we all have to go through to heal that lack inside. It's painful, but we are trying to do it from the opposite direction. So this is where we compromise, we sell out, we leave our vision, we lose interest in our vision when something outside fills the vacuum inside, or seems to do. And maybe you don't yet have enough inner authority to move through any resistance or setback that we all meet on our journey. You know, these are the challenges. If you want to see a difference in the world, you really need to be the difference. You've heard it before, and it's not just a quote, a fancy quote. It's real. It's a real experience. So you don't want to put that unconsciously out in the world, that kind of energy or lack or insecurity. You don't want to put that out there, right? That energy is already a big part of the problem out there. So why add to it? We need a certain kind of resilience, an inner divine authority. That's what we need. And this is the frequency we want to bring to the world. It's not actually so much what we do, even though we think we need to do something, but it's more who we are. It's that energy, it's that frequency. And we've been giving away our divine power for too long. We've been betraying and compromising ourselves. We've been giving up our wisdom and our vision and our clarity and our knowing of what is true and what is needed. We all do it. I certainly did it myself for a long time. And slowly, I've been moving out more and more with my message. Honestly, it's been really scary in the beginning. But, again, my commitment was bigger than the fear that wanted to hold me back. But by holding back our truth, we withhold exactly what the world needs. And that is you. Yes, you in your divine fullness. By holding you back, you actually add to the world that you don't want. Just think about that for a minute. By holding you back, all of you, your fullness, you add to the world what you don't want. You're not bringing to the world what you want. So obviously this must stop. If we want to live in a world based on different values, it has to stop. Any of you up for some sustainable and wholesome values? It's time for you and I to take back our power and no longer take no for an answer when it comes to building a new world and expressing what lives in your heart. I want to talk a little bit about the old paradigm values versus the new paradigm values. Because we're moving out of the old paradigm and into the new. This is quite a transition phase because the old paradigm still lives inside of us, kind of as a cellular conditioning and memory. No matter how awake you are, it's still in your cellular memory. And it needs to be changed at that level, at a cellular level. And here it comes. Here's my 6-week course, what it's about. Self-love turns out to do just that. There's a reason I call this course the global impact of self-love. It really does have an impact, even though we may not see it right away. The old paradigm, cellular values inside you and inside me will make you go out and do something with or from or as these old paradigm values. It will be like using force, anger, resistance, and using those old paradigm energies to create a change. Well, what do you think you're going to create? More of the same, right? You're using old paradigm values. You cannot create a new paradigm with those values. And we need to be aware that this is exactly the frequency that matches what we see out there and what we want to get rid of or change. So, do you see the dilemma? And also, again, just a caution here, please don't think there's anything wrong with that, because you have to remember that we are in a transition phase, and many of us only know about the old ways from the old paradigms. That's what we were born into. That's what we grew up in. We don't have a choice. We didn't have a choice, but we do now. And in many ways, it's still helpful to make use of those old ways of force and resistance as we transition, because that's all we have. But then we can turn it towards something better. We can use the resistance and just say, no, I don't want to do that anymore, and do it with conviction. That may seem like a force, but it's a new energy where you take a stand for what you want. So let's look at the world, how the resistance movements are popping up all over, because that's all that people know is resistance, that old kind of resistance. And they don't know about this frequency that I'm talking about. And maybe it's working for those people who are still identified with that. And the resistance that is showing up everywhere makes people aware. It helps open the eyes to what is happening. And this is good. They're waking up to what is going on in the world and in themselves. Maybe not yet to who they are, but something is waking up inside. And at this point, they only have access to the old paradigm ways of operating. So what else can they do but use the old ways, which is resisting? And, that's just how it works. And it's okay. It may be the first phase of waking up to what is going on in the world, which mobilizes people out of the comfort and convenience trance. It's a trance. We live in this trance that make us do and take certain actions, but we don't know we do it. It's like a trance. It's a program. And just right now, look at how many are doing that. It's amazing when you start seeing that. Yeah, once you start seeing it, you cannot unsee it anymore. So just, start paying a little attention to what means people are using to create change. And it may also apply to you, of course, because we're all going through this together. I would say the force of the unconscious is strong out there. And I think it's amazing to see how people are rising up and taking a stand. We have obviously had enough to be controlled and lied to. And it's good to stand up and say, no, no, no more. People are listening to their inner no instead of putting it on snooze, the snooze button, and they're acting on it more and more, finally. It's like we're not making it dolling it like we used to do. The world is waking up to what's going on in the world, and they're also waking up to the inner movement inside of them that wants to change course. And resistance is all they know at this point, and it is exactly what they need to do. So we're different now. There is a lot more than just resisting and efforting. Those are remnants from the old paradigm and not what we want to bring into the new. So we need to really see that. That's why I repeat it a little bit. We need to see that this is the old just doing its thing unconsciously, but it's not creating change. But notice the resistance, notice how you're done with this, and then just start opening up to see if there is another way. Because underneath this no is the yes to what we really want. And that's why we are feeling a no, because there's something new emerging. And in this 6-week course, we'll do some excavation work and find it under all the layers of compromise, fear and doubt, resistance, comparing, competing, and all these things. These are all the old paradigm values and ways of operating. So we want to move from the old to the new paradigm. And in the new paradigm, we want to make space for all of it without necessarily believing it yet. We create a gap and we call that allowing. So you make yourself open for the new to come in. You may not know how it's going to look yet, how you're going to do it, but you need to say no to the old, noticing what wants to come through, and then you open up for it to come through. It's like you create a space of allowing, which is, by the way, the first A in the ALL formula, the all formula. So to come back to standing for love in yourself and your own life first, we need to make space for all the feelings, all the beliefs and experiences that we have been resisting and denying and hiding and shaming and blaming. We need to change our relationship to all these parts. We need to raise our frequency and use different tools, different means to transform and integrate the energies that we've tried to get rid of. You know, this is kind of a funny thing to say, but when you try to get rid of your feelings or your beliefs, where do you think they're going? Where are they going to go? Do you think there's a landfill somewhere for the old paradigm? I think it's a funny metaphor because, you know, when you look at it like that, when you want to get rid of something, where's it going to go? So it doesn't work like that, but we do transform and integrate the liberated energy. So when we start resisting it, then there's an energy that becomes available, and that is this liberated energy. That's what we can integrate and transform into the new paradigm values. And when we're able to do it inside of us, of course, we're also able to do it outside of us. If all we know inside is to resist what we don't want or don't like about ourselves, whether they be feelings or looks, behaviors, thoughts, whatnot, then we're part of keeping the old paradigm alive energetically. And then, of course, we do the same on the outside. It's just because of our lack of awareness of what we're doing. That's it. Lack of awareness of what we're doing to ourselves. So just by unconsciously, because it is unconscious, perpetuating the old paradigm behaviors inside ourselves, we energetically add to the world that we don't want and that we don't like. I hope you see this, because this is humongous. This is why we can make a real difference, a real energetic difference in the world. So I hope you can see the connection and why it is so important to be able to raise your frequency. Just by becoming aware of old unconscious patterns and behaviors and ways of treating yourself, you already raise your frequencies just by the awareness. And then you can, when you see it, then you can learn to make space inside for your feelings and for your beliefs instead of resisting them. That's how you already raise your frequency. See, it's not that complicated, but you just need to see what you're doing and what you want to do instead. And it's really powerful. And it's not something you can see right away necessarily in the world, but the more you do it, the more you can feel it inside yourself and notice how you act differently in the world. It's amazing. You'll simply realize that you need to be in the world from a place of fullness instead of wanting something from the world because you feel a lack and a vacuum inside of you. And of course, this vacuum is going to be filled up from the inside once you understand it. So you bring a new frequency just by being you. It's being you without the resistance of being you. It's being you without the resistance of being you. It's like you peel that resistance off. That's the old paradigm, and see what is there. And you may notice that other people notice that you're different and that they may not even know why. You'll have an impact on the world, and literally a global impact. That's why I call this 6-week course the global impact of self-love. So when you learn to love every part of who you are, who you already are, and who you want to become, instead of resisting who you are, you allow it. You listen to it. You love it. And for sure, if nothing else, you'll bring more peace. You'll feel more peaceful inside, and you will bring more peace to the world. Just that, just by being more peaceful, you do change the frequency in the world. And, you may not notice that outside, but you'll notice it inside. Another benefit is that when you're different in that way, you're not moved to get into arguments, political bashing discussions, negative talk or self-talk about the world situation and other topics like that. You just don't feed that energy, and gently and energetically you pull out of it. You stop touching it. And right there, you're bringing a different frequency to the world. You don't engage in negativity inside. You don't engage in negativity outside. You don't add to what you don't want. You simply take a stand for love and to what you do want. Now, by the way, just to make sure, this doesn't mean you may not like what's going on in the world. I'm not saying that. It just means that you don't add to it with your energy, and instead use that energy to open up more to your inner vision and the wisdom which is needed in the world. So, you just let it be what it is. You don't have to add all these emotional reactions to it. Just let it be. No, we don't like it, and that's why we don't touch it anymore. So instead, when you stop doing that, you'll start feeling more content inside, and you just don't feel the need or interest to enter into negativity and blaming and arguing. And this literally is how you start bringing in a new frequency. Simple enough, huh? The more you learn to love yourself, the more your true self, the capital S, comes through in everything you do. Just imagine this for a moment. The world changes just by you being you. Just what I said before, just by you being you without the resistance to being you. Just pull off that label or that sticky stuff, and there you are. So you don't even have to do anything, although there's a good chance that there will be an inner movement or an inspiration or a download or other yummy experiences that can now come to the surface and get your attention. And your doing comes from inspiration rather than disgust. Anybody feel disgust here? What energy do you think that's going to bring to the world? So just feeling into it, can you feel the difference in energy and in frequency? Well, that's how it is for me anyway. And self-love is something I just can't get away from, and for a good reason. It just seems to be what I came here to learn and then to share, because literally I can't get away from it. If I write articles, am on interviews, write books, work with my clients, or teach my classes, I always notice that the theme that comes out of my mouth or my keyboard is self-love. And luckily, I do love living that, and I do love sharing it. I feel very blessed to have such a nice message in this lifetime. So that's how it is when you learn to love yourself. You get in touch with the real you who lives under all the self-loathing and the unworthiness, the neglect, the shame, the doubt, and whatnot. Because the real you is still here. And as you start melting and loving through the layers that have blocked the view and the vision of the real you, it naturally comes through. Because it's just there. It's just waiting for our attention. Because you already are that. I already am that. You already are that which you seek as a spiritual seeker. You already are that. Do I need to say it again? It's not just what we have lived through so many lifetimes as if we are not that, pretending we're separate, pretending to be unworthy and unlovable. Oh my God, I've done a lot of that. But we simply forgot. We forgot to look inside. And we got so caught up in the outside, believing that it reflected back to us who we are. And it wasn't very good, was it? Now, luckily, the reality is that it's the opposite. Who we are is reflected in the world we see. That's why we need to get to know who we are. Well, let's see, how do I say that? We need to get to know who we are believing ourselves to be inside. So once we see who we believe ourselves to be, not who we truly are, but who we have been programmed to believe that we are, then we can start clearing the windshield. Get all the smooch of it, smuts. And it's great when you can use the outside world as a reflection of your own self-image. Because then it's much easier to recognize it as your own stuff on your own windshield. And that's why we need to spray some self-love on this windshield and start clearing it. So as we make space for all the parts we don't like about ourselves, all the parts we have resisted and tried to get rid of, then we start a whole new relationship with them. We shift from resisting to allowing. And voila, your frequency got uplifted just by that, and the world changed. You probably heard about the metaphor about the butterfly in Japan whose moving wings affect the other side of the planet. And be sure, nobody on the other side blamed it on the butterfly. So that's how it works. Nobody will know that you and I added either negativity or positivity to the frequency, but it's still there. So now I want to just briefly share about the 6-week course that I'm going to offer. In this 6-week course, you'll learn how to use the ALL formula, the ALL, allow, listen, love. We'll learn how to allow instead of resist. Listen versus ignoring. And love versus doubt. And you'll learn body language because it's all in on the cellular level. Most of us couldn't choose a subject back in the days in school that was called body language, right? Like you could choose Spanish or French or Latin, whatever, but body language was never part of the curriculum, and it still isn't, but we're going to make it outside of school to start with, and maybe one day they'll actually realize that this is a very, very important language. So you'll be learning that, and you'll get in touch with your no and learn from it and honor it. And you'll get in touch with your yes and start trusting it and acting on it. So the 6 weeks, the first week is called What is Self-Love? The second week, learning how to allow all of yourself. The third week, how do you listen to your body? That's the body language. Week 4, aligning with your body's wisdom. See, that's important, right? When you start listening to your body, the body language, then you don't ignore it or resist it. You just align with it because you know that this is coming from a much deeper part of you. And the 5th week is called the mouthpiece of God. And that is the true meaning of desire or longing. And that's a sweet, sweet class. It's really connecting back to your divine energy and your divine calling. And then the last week, week number 6, is sharing our gifts. So that's how we start bringing them into the world. So I'm sure this little talk has brought up some questions. So now let's open it up for those now. Thank you so much.